How is this still going on? This verse been going for way too long. If you're blind, you can see that this is wrong, and I won't comply. Not me, no way.
Good morning, everyone. Holy cow. Yesterday we started the show with good news. I have bad news today, everyone. I feel duped. I feel tricked. I feel like they knew what they were going to do before they made that erroneous announcement yesterday. But the bad news is that the truckers are still subject to the Vax Pass and they're angry. So we'll see. We'll see something probably in the short term. Pretty wild. Provincial shortage of Pfizer. Did you see that in the news? I didn't see that in the news. I saw that at the Wellington Dufferin Guelph Public Health Twitter account. So that's interesting. What's true? Vaccines work or very little protection as per the Pfizer CEO? I don't know. Who knows? And rise in anti-vax rhetoric. Anti-vax rhetoric? Anyway, the newspapers are all getting on board. It's interesting to see newspapers who championed the rights of the minority and nobody should be left behind and everybody should be accepted for who they are. And, you know, if you're fat or if you're trapped in the wrong body or if you're this or if you're that, you should be accepted for exactly who you are, except those evil anti-vaxxers, right? I'm not anti-Semitic, but I hate those. I mean, what? It's so hypocritical. And I mean, like, funny, but hypocritical. And also, they're serious though, right? Like it's funny, except they're not kidding, right? Like it's not a punchline. And that's a problem. You can support the show if you want to support the show by heading over to CanadaReport.co. You can click on this Amazon tile here and that'll support the show. You can buy my book directly from Amazon if you're interested in that. And that will support the show. You can directly support the show by clicking on CanadaPoli.com. You can check out the forums or locals. I've just loaded a bunch of new videos. I'm going to talk about 2 of them at the end of the show. There's a Rainier Fullmark. There's a new interview with him, and I like his interview. The guy who's interviewing with him, he's a good interviewer. I like listening to him. He's got a neat accent. And this one was interesting. TikTok is worse than you think, and it's like a Chinese app designed to tap into the baser instincts of humans, right? And I think that it's interesting that other internet companies haven't figured out yet that that's the basic job. Like the basic job of a Facebook employee is to keep eyeballs on Facebook more. And so they use conflict to do that, right? Same thing, same trick as television. A lot of Western television is just based on conflict, right? Somebody says something mean and then how everybody else reacts to it. It's all based on conflict. ER, right? It's an unrealistic level of like emergencies. It's all based on conflict. And so what TikTok did and what this documentary goes through is talking about how in 2012, there was a company in China that tried to replicate Reddit, basically, but it went further and it's resulted in TikTok. So, and I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I've just watched the first maybe 15 minutes, and I was very interested, and I'm going to have to wait until I wash the dishes later on today to watch the rest of it. So, I mean, things like that happen. And it's Friday, so I have a hard time getting through more videos on Fridays because people are home and they don't like you watching videos while they're standing in the kitchen trying to have conversations with you. That only happens occasionally. Okay, back to this. Imagine someone tells you that there's an emergency and they need to borrow your car for 15 days. Just 2 weeks, man. I just got to flatten this road surface between my house and theirs. 2 years pass and they still have no criteria for the emergency ending and no plans to give you your car back. Your car was stolen, dude. Right? And our lives were stolen in the same way. So could we have our lives back now? Can we open our business again? No? Oh, okay. So you're not going to come up with any criteria at all and you're just going to watch my business die? Okay, right. Thanks. So we'll talk next month. We won't talk next month. Right. Gotcha. Bye. Unvaccinated Canadian truckers will have to quarantine under new mandates, feds say. Yesterday, we were doing an impromptu kitchen table talk. You can check it out on Rumble and Odyssey and the other video BitChute. I may cut Rumble out for now. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But we did a kitchen table talk and Ryan said the truckers are back under the vax mandate. And I was like, no, that was like yesterday, man. You're not keeping up with the news. And he was like, no, man, it just happened like just before he got on here. And I didn't believe him. I had to go and, I believed him because I went and looked, but I was like, I can't believe that the government would be so egregious. And I can't believe that it was a mistake. I can't believe that they would send out a communication that was that poorly worded that the representative who was speaking to the press thought that they walked back the mandate and told them so. And then B, I can't believe that they would do such a thing, right? Like dangle it like that. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, I mean, that falls in line with the psychological torture that they're trying to really push on the Canadian public, right? Why not? Why not dangle a little ray of hope for the people who, maybe are going to get checkmated by this, right? And then crush that hope less than 24 hours later. But that's exactly what they did, right? So they're walking back this walk back. Incredible. This is CTV. There's a bunch of articles about this. Here's a tweet, and we'll end on the CBC article about it. Our government is doubling down in its effort to destroy this country and further paralyze our economy. Get ready, Canada. The truckers I've spoken to are ready to lay siege. Yikes. That's not good. That's not good. Like, it's not good. Period. Federal government now says all truckers crossing the border must be fully vaccinated. All truck drivers crossing the border must be fully vaccinated as of Saturday, regardless of whether they are Canadian citizens or foreign nationals, the federal government said Thursday. Confusion over the controversial policy has been widespread since the federal government first announced in mid-November that by January 15th, all foreign nationals working as truckers would have to be fully vaccinated to enter Canada. The same announcement said unvaccinated Canadian truckers would be allowed in, but would be subject to quarantine and testing requirements. On Wednesday, a spokesperson for the Canadian Border Service Agency said the federal government was backing down from that commitment and would allow Canadian truckers to enter the country without having to quarantine, even if they were unvaccinated or had received only one dose. Today, the federal government walked back this statement, saying that Wednesday's statement was provided in error and that the regulations outlined in November would stand. The Transportation Minister, Omar Alghabra, told CBC News Network Power and Politics that while the spokesperson had incomplete information, the federal government's policy had not changed. So that's interesting, don't you think? There's a whole lot of strange things happening when the left hand, like the Canadian Border Services, doesn't know what the right hand, Transportation Ministry, is doing and making announcements like that. And while the truckers are angry, and who could blame them, right? I think everybody's angry. And here is TR6 guy, and he says, Canada, the truckers of this country have had enough and are organizing a convoy coast to coast this Saturday to Ottawa. They are not doing it to end their border crossing mandate. They are doing it to end all mandates. Support your local truckers. This ends now. Interesting. I mean, if the grocery stores aren't stocked because all the stock is sitting on trucks, would the government then use that as an excuse to declare an emergency and staff the trucks with military guys and get those deliveries, et cetera, and push the rhetoric of we're taking care of you Canadians and blah blah blah, or is this going to work? Would this put pressure on the right people in the government because people are sick of this to end the mandates? I don't know how it'll play out. Yesterday, while I was scrolling through, I found a lot of interesting conversations happening, again, around the edges of this kind of thing, rather than attacking the core of this. And this person's saying, new poll, do you support vaccine mandate exemptions for truckers? And so now the battle is not about the lost civil liberties, not about the full removal of rights from unvaccinated people, not about, locking people in their homes, not about using vile rhetoric to divide Canadians and pit each other against each other. No, the conversation is, do you support this specific vaccine mandate in this specific case? And I think that that's a distraction. It really doesn't solve anything, and it doesn't get us any closer to moving forward on this and turning the page on this. And that's a distraction to me. And here's another reason that's a distraction. And Brett says, what a strangely worded poll, the poll I just read you. I'll reword it. Do you like having food? Right? Like, how much of our food and produce is trucked up through the United States? 30%? If there's a 30% reduction in what's happening now, or in stock levels in products on the shelves now, is that positive or negative, do you think? Right? I think negative. I think that's probably bad. But yesterday, again, during the kitchen table talk, Kinster brought up the fact that even before these truckers, even before this edict doesn't take effect until Friday, so nothing's really changed for the truckers in the past 2 or 3 weeks. But Kinster was saying last week to this week, and the week before, so 2 weeks ago, last week, and then this week, the reduction in stock has been noticeable, and it's only going to get worse. And her thought was, what if it's not the truckers that are going to be doing this? What if this is just the excuse? Like, oh, of course there's nothing on the shelves. The truckers are all locked up in, blah, 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 blah. And so how do you deal with that in a meaningful way? How do you respond to that in a way that is like, if it's going to happen anyway and they're using it as an excuse, we can't get to the truth of this to solve the problem. If you don't know what the problem is, then you're stuck on a treadmill solving inefficient problems, right? Like if the core of the problem is X and you're solving, something, if you're getting the curtains upstairs and the problem is a flood, you're wasting your time, right? And you're not solving the core problem. You have to stop the flood and then drain the water, right? Not save the curtains on the second floor. So that's what I'm saying, right? We're being purposely distracted, maybe, and focusing on the wrong things instead of actually dealing with the problem at hand and solving that and moving forward. And there's a whole bunch of people, whole bunch of agencies, whole bunch of municipal leaders and board leaders who are just fine with having these ridiculous conversations. Like, do you support this mandate in this specific situation? None of the mandates should stand. They're all illegal. They should all fall. Every single one of them. They are all illegal. They all violate basic laws, and they have not been proven to be effective, and they have not been proven to be to be necessary, right? Like, first, they don't work, and second, they're damaging. They hurt our economy. They hurt people personally. It's unbelievable. Here's more supply chain stuff in Los Angeles. There's a lot of train burglaries happening, right? And there was a Netflix show about this. It was like a Wild West, and it was a train robbing gang of women, which is just not believable. Like, I'm sorry. It's just not, sorry, everyone. Like, sure, I know it's a Netflix show, but like the whole idea is to push the narrative. But regardless of that, there was a whole Netflix show based on train robbing people. And here we see train robberies happening. And these are all discarded Amazon packages and all sorts of debris from looted packages and looted trains. This is wild. Like, this is the United States. I can't believe the level of rot. This is incredible. Like, and nobody's really doing anything to solve this problem either. Everybody's everybody's focused on COVID. And that's just, the longer they're focused on not solving anything with COVID, the longer this stuff is left to fester. Here we go. There used to be like rules, right? And now we're living in a suspended, in Canada, and it seems in the US, a situation where the laws and the rules are suspended. But that's been the case for a while in the US. If you're burning the right building down, then that's not arson. That's just civic, direct protest action. And that's what they're trying to sell. And it's selling quite a lot.